Next on the bonus section of this is another host MC skill about developing rapport. Now, I've got to say, if you get anxiety at the very thought of talking to somebody else on a recorded line or in public, things of that nature, I want to congratulate you on deciding to make a podcast anyways. It's a very brave thing, and it's a great way to overcome that fear or that anxiety. However, if you really need something to hold on to, and we don't want to make it the questions, okay? Because it's going to be an easy way for you to get distracted, forget what's going on, not listen to what your guest is saying. And any good actor will tell you all good acting is reacting, and that comes from good listening, good reactions that are gold, the moments that we look at where we go, wow, the actor was powerful. It comes from their ability to listen well and to listen honestly. And what happens naturally, the camera picks up. And the same goes for a tone of conversation. So if you're so filled with anxiety and riddled with it because you're worried about what they think of you, was that a dumb question, things of that nature, I want to share with you a tool that is often never shared or talked about. And there's no book that was published that talks about it. But I did discover this through a book, and as I started looking further for derivative works. The book was called Games People Play by a psychologist named Eric Berne. Now, that book in itself talks about transactional analysis, and it's actually the more simplified version of transactional analysis, and it's a great book, but this isn't what I'm about to give you. The tool I'm about to give you is an acronym called S.T.O.P.I.M.Y.U. And this acronym is actually developed by a team that continued and created a derivative work of Eric Berne's work, where they took transactional analysis and made something called the intimacy scale, because they understood that there are two types of people who are so riddled with anxiety that they have a hard time holding a conversation together. And then there are people who just simply aren't aware of how to increase the intimacy within a conversation. And those are people who end up not having lots of friends and things of that nature because they just don't understand it. They don't get the cues that a lot of people with natural charisma do. So this is a host MC skill that I think you can hold on to, and it's probably the best part of this course. And so I'm about to break it down for you, and here it is, okay? S.T.O.P.I.M.Y.U, intimacy scale, right? Transactional analysis. And just so that I give proper credit, right? Why don't I do intimacy scale right here live while I'm making this video? I'm going to look it up, and it is a specific, let's see, who did this specifically? It may be called Eric Berne's Unfinished Symphony. Basically, it's, again, like I said, derivative work, and you can do a quick search, and I believe contributors like Stephen B. Karpman was a close colleague of Dr. Berne, attending his Tuesday night seminars in San Francisco. This is from tanddefonline.com, which basically was one of the first things that popped up when I was doing the Google search. Just to give you some authority and to give credit where it's due, I didn't come up with this, but I'm putting it in this course because it's going to help you get you to where you want to be in a level of comfortability as a host, if you rely on nothing else, at least this. S.T.O.P.I.M.Y.U is the acronym. S.T.O.P.I.M.Y.U, right? So here it is. All conversations and all relationships begin in silence. That's the S. And most people hold a shallow relationship with the majority of the people in their lives at things, objects, and places. So silence, things, object, places. That's stop. Things, objects, and places looks a lot like, hey, about them Lakers. Yeah, them Lakers. Yeah. Or how about those shoes? Have you seen these shoes or these fashion brands? Or I traveled to Paris. Did you travel to Paris? Right? Very top level. And the great thing about this acronym is it's a scale for you to measure where somebody you're speaking to, where they're sitting on that scale. If you talk to them about things, objects, places, and they respond with things, objects, and places, then you know that they're on the same level and they haven't gone past, or you can see why things may have stopped and fell off because you didn't push past or they didn't push past. And so gauge it. This is something active you can do. This will get rid of your anxiety. But the next level from silence, things, objects, places, the P turns from places to philosophies, and then there's ideas with the letter I. So then to piggyback off of the, them Lakers, yeah, those Lakers, which is a thing, object, or place, right? you can get into the philosophy of it. There's a lot of skill involved in the mechanics of basketball, and I believe while there may be physics behind it, I do also believe there's an art to it. I mean, if you've ever seen Michael Jordan play, so now you're getting into people, yes, and it might still feel like objects and places, but you're getting into philosophy, into ideas, sort of like this course, where now there's a bigger intimacy between yourself and myself, or yourself and the guest that you're speaking to when you start moving into ideas. And for some people, they may be ready to go into ideas right away. But not all people are like that, especially if you're trying to break the ice with a stranger you haven't spoken to yet, which tends to be what happens on a podcast, unless you're just interviewing your friends. So things, silence, things, objects, places, and then the P in places turns into philosophies and ideas. And if you take a look and someone responds in kind with philosophies and ideas, then you know they've moved up in intimacy with you, and you guys are increasing that intimacy, and now that scale is affording you a better conversation, a deeper conversation. Then you can test the waters and start talking about personal issues with yourself or personal issues with the other person, and that's where the M and the Y come from, the S.T.O.P.I.M.U. Me, you. And the ultimate test would be the us, when you can start using us language. We actually have a lot in common, right? As opposed to, well, as for me, or what do you personally see with... So understand that there are degrees of intimacy to create that fly on the wall experience, which is something I want to get into in another video here. But that's what it takes to be a good conversationalist, and that's the only framework that I've ever found that isn't talked about a lot, that can assist you and make you feel like you're at least actively doing something, so you're not in no man's land, as actors call it, where they don't have some degree of business, some doingness. That's why you see actors who smoke or eat food while on camera. It allows them to break out of that and really get into it, and it just affords you an opportunity to get out of your own head and get to the actual conversation, which people want the juicy stuff. So this acronym should help you with that.